Howdy. Let's see, what's the date today? It is September 1st, and where am I at? I am, almost 2000 hours, almost 8 o'clock, 2025. Yesterday I made a video, and I think I called it something like Ruby Ridge, what did I call it? Ruby Ridge Operation Trigger Lock. Yeah, I just noticed something. I'm sitting in a different chair. Oh well, we're stuck with it. Let me tell you what I got here before I go on. Let me tell you what I got. This is a freaking lawn chair. And if it's not a lawn chair, you see that chair behind me sitting there? That's that's what I've been making videos with, sitting in that straight back wooden thing that's kicking my butt and my back. So I have a big screen TV in front of me, up above the hearth. That's what I'm doing. And the camera's sitting up on the hearth, and the computer's over here, the PC, and I have my computer running through an entertainment center. So my big screen TV is my monitor, excuse me, and that's what I'm looking at. So I forgot to change the chair, but you know what? I'm way more comfortable. So let's go with this. So yesterday I did a video. It was rather long, and hopefully people will watch it. Let me say this: there's something I don't want to say. I'm very sorry. I keep doing that. It's so rude and ugly in the tape, but got a little bit of an issue here. I'm struggling. I'm 70 years old. I freaking hate it. 70 is a swear word to me. I don't know who invented 70, but they can go fuck themselves. When this stuff was going on in the days when Randy and I knew each other and we went through hell together, how old was I? I think I was around 37. I'm fucking 70. And so where my head is at, and why I'm doing these things here, is to record reality and truth. Nobody else is talking about this. I realize the whole world knows about Ruby Ridge. I know they do. Who's doing anything about it? I've spent the last 8 months failing. I don't fail very often, but you can imagine I would fail on this. Before Dan Bongino became Deputy Director of FBI, I was trying to get a hold of him when he had his, we'll call it a radio show, whatever, his internet thing. And I wanted to contact him because I think he's trustworthy. I don't trust Kash Patel because I saw Kash Patel give awards to his FBI scumbags who killed Lavoy Finicum. I have a problem with that because I know everything that happened out there with Lavoy and Ammon and his brother Ryan and everybody else that was in the truck. I know everything. In fact, I know more than what most people know. So I'm put off by him, and since I see him lying about the Charlie Kirk thing, lying out his ass on every word that ever comes out of his mouth, I don't want anything to do with him, and I sure as hell don't trust anybody underneath him. So I can't talk to the FBI. Where do I go if I want to whistle blow? Where the hell do I go? I'll give you an example. Another reason I'm making these videos, I don't want to get into it, but I'm sort of struggling with some things physically. And if something happens to me, I feel like I'm the last guy. So I'm the last guy on the Ruby Ridge case to discuss it. Why? What the hell have I got to do with Ruby Ridge? Kind of nothing until Randy and I meet up in court, or meet up in jail, and we go to court together for 2 years, and we find out that the same exact ATF agents, I'm going to do it again, damn, the same exact ATF agents, the same exact scumbag U.S. Marshals. I'm going to tell you some stuff about the U.S. Marshals today. The same players set us up in criminal acts. They committed crimes to entrap us into something we wouldn't normally do so that we could get arrested and they would have a fucking case. What are they sitting around pulling each other's puds in the office all day? They don't have real cases. They got to go fucking make them up. I find these people offensive. I find them to be demented and sick. And I hope you'll watch this. I hope you'll watch this, because I'm going to show you how sick U.S. Marshals are, how twisted in their fucking heads they are. And I'm going to show you how twisted, I've already shown you how twisted FBI is, and they're diabolical. So U.S. Marshals, and I'm going to show you what ATF did to me that's sick. It's disgusting. They were losing their case against me, and they did something despicable. But what the hell have I got to do with Ruby Ridge? Answer, nothing. Until Randy and I meet in, what year was it? 92. It was 92. So he's been in jail for a few years. I'm going to get my notepad here. He's been in jail for a few months, sorry, a few years. Where did I get that from? And then I show up probably in December. And by the way, they put me right in with him, and there was only Randy and me in this place. And this place, which was a shithole, as I've explained before, I mean a fucking shithole. It was disgusting. I mean, did I take a shower there every day? Yeah, I did. And I wanted waiter boots to even go in there. It was gross. It was gross. But anyway, it was only Randy and I in this horrific place. Just him and I. No one else was in there. And they always did that to us. They kept us together. And I'm pretty sure that they were trying to get us to talk, as I said yesterday, and see what they could get. I made some notes after I did the video last night about the things I forgot to talk about. I'd say a couple of things here about Randy, and then the rest goes into my case and what happened. So if I'll say the two things about Randy on here, and after that, if you want to listen to what they did to me, great. I'd kind of like you to hear what scumbags these people are, and I can kind of prove it. All right, let me think. I need my glasses. Excuse me just a sec. I don't know why my voice is so messed up. All right, so let me go into my stuff, and then I'll jump into Randy's stuff too. So on the video yesterday, I'm talking about the police. Boise police are playing the role of a stalker and a rapist. Nobody was actually raped, but they're threatening rape. They're playing this role, and there's a man in a black mask. It comes to the point where there's a man in a black mask. Turns out his name was Mike Majors. When I discovered who Mike Majors was and how I had been set up, and court is going on, the judge ordered a photo ID lineup of police. Mike Majors had long hair to about down here. He worked undercover. You'd have never known by looking at him he was a cop. And when the photo ID lineup was ordered, this guy cut his hair butch short. In order for the police department to hide him, this is what they always do. Go anywhere in the world, and when somebody gets accused of shit, what do their people behind them always do? They promote them. So he gets promoted to lieutenant. He goes back on, I guess you'd call it patrol, but he's an LT. And he hides. And when I looked at the photo lineup of the cops, I couldn't even pick him out. I mean, nobody picked him out. He didn't get caught. This son of a bitch. He didn't get caught. He's out there threatening women and children with violence. And he didn't get caught. I'm sorry. I have a problem. All right. So I had spoken to you about how I got on the Boise police computer system. Now, if I had gotten caught doing that back in the day, I don't know what they'd have done. Who gave a shit? I was desperate to find the truth. I got on their fucking computer because I got a chance to do it, and I did. And I pulled off massive amount of documents that showed me exactly who was who and what was what. And I learned that Nancy Denise Joyner was working for the police. And here's how that went down. Remember the donut caper when the girls got in trouble? Her daughters got in trouble going to school, stole donuts from Albertsons. We get called to the police department to pick them up, and here's what happened. Here's what actually went on when they showed up. Now let me remind you that I spoke to you yesterday and told you how trouble followed me from Florida through U.S. Marshals. I had threatened, properly so, legally so, lawfully so, I had threatened a U.S. attorney for doing crimes against somebody that he prosecuted, and I told him I was going to expose him. And that's when the shit started getting real bad. And so during my case of these 3 trials that I had, I was able to pull records and show that the U.S. Marshals Office in Jacksonville, Florida, had sent faxes up to Boise Police Department, and I'm sure others, saying it's possible this guy named David Hoffman may show up, and if he does show up, he is, and I'm going to do it again, he is an ex-police officer, he is an ex-prison guard who murdered somebody, he's a ex-gun runner, ex-hitman, or current martial artist who would rather kill you than look at you. And this was written down. This shit was written down like it was real. It was all a lie. And so the point is that we go to pick up the girls who get tagged by the police for stealing donuts, and the mother goes into the police station while I wait outside. Now, unknown to me, Nancy Denise Joyner had a warrant for her arrest in Florida. I didn't know that. And when she walked into the PBD or BPD office, of course, they check her out. And I can imagine, I'm imagining this, but this is how it went. I'm not a retard. She goes in to pick up her kids, and she's probably threatened with arrest. There's an arrest warrant for her. I think it was some kind of larceny charge. Makes sense. And as they're probably grilling her about her warrant and they're going to arrest her, she probably spills out, well, she's living with a guy named David Hoffman. David Hoffman? Oh my God. We've been getting faxes from U.S. Marshals about this guy forever, and then within that hour time frame where she's inside, they devised this plan to trick David Hoffman in some sort of operation where they can take me down and arrest me. And they got ATF involved. Here's how I know they got ATF involved. Because the day I was arrested, they called me on the phone, hey, we caught the stalker. Remember that story if you watched the video? We caught the stalker. We followed him back, the footprints back to his house, and we arrested him, bring Nancy down to ID him. Remember that? And then I call them on their bullshit and say, hey, you got cops outside this house. I can't see them, but they're out here because I heard them on the radio. I heard them talking to each other. And I give myself up because, I have to. And as I give myself up, what I didn't tell you yesterday, which is why I did this, wrote notes down, ATF was waiting outside in a car. They were outside waiting for me to come out. Goddamn right they were in on it. They were in on it. All right. So Nancy's working for the police. I don't know this. In fact, the whole time in my trial, 3 trials, the judge said if he could ever prove or see that Nancy Joyner is working for police, he'd just dismiss my case immediately. How that never came across, I don't know. And I'm kind of pissed about it to this day. All right, let me look on here. So Nancy's working for the police. She's got a warrant for arrest, and I told you that she's driving around town in my Jeep while I'm sitting in jail, and she is getting parking tickets all over town, and they're being fixed. I think fixed was the term. She's not parking outside a courtroom, and the cops are fixing her tickets. And when I went in on the police computer and got all this info off, oh, and by the way, I didn't finish my comment. If I had got caught doing that, I would have just said, being a smart ass, hey man, this is public record. Okay, so I was on your computer, so what? Unauthorized stuff going on your computer, it's all public record. It's not super sleuth stuff. Anybody can come down and look this shit up, or ask you for it. You have to give it to them. So anyway, but I never got caught. So where was I going? So Nancy's working for the cops. She's driving around. She's driving around on a suspended driver's license. I'm seeing all this stuff in the files I get off the computer, and I'm putting it together finally. The woman that I put in my house had multiple incidences where she was followed around. And when she followed these guys back in turn after they tried to scare her and her then 9-year-old daughter, when they tried to scare her, she turns around and follows them. This is funny as hell. And she follows them to 7200 Barrister, that's the sheriff's office / police department, and they go behind the fence for police personnel only in these unmarked cars, and we start putting it all together. But this woman's name was Yvonne, and Yvonne states that Nancy Denise Joyner was doing this to me because she wanted to steal all my shit. She wanted to steal everything I owned, my car, I guess my bank account, or whatever was going on. She wanted to steal it, and she was telling Yvonne how easy it was to do this to David, and he'll go to jail, and we'll get all his stuff. And she admitted this to this ex-police officer, and this woman told this to the court. Okay. Before I get into Randy and more of his stuff, hold on, I'm looking. Let me do this. It's 94. It's springtime. It's around Easter. Not a thing I celebrate, but it is around that time. Back then, I didn't know what I do now, so I can't draw, but I gave a guy some stuff to get some cards that he created. We'll call them Easter cards that he hand drew. And I got 2 of them. And I got one for the kids. I don't even remember what it was, just a standard kind of Easter card sort of thing. I got one for the kids, and I got one for Nancy. This is before I knew what she was doing. Oh, by the way, before I forget, I'm going to come right back to the Easter card. Nancy Joyner starts working for my attorney, claiming to be a paralegal, and she's coming in and out of the jail with attorney privileges to come talk to me, all the while she's spying on my case and taking it to the other side. Not a joke. Not a fucking joke. And I'll tell you more on that in a second. So going back to the Easter card, there was a real nice deputy there, Randy, I don't remember his last name, super nice guy. We used to talk a lot. And one day I show these cards to Randy, who's picking up the mail in the place where Randy Weaver and I were. This guy's name was Randy too. And he's picking up the mail, so I'm gonna get this into the mail. And I show him the 2 cards, but the one card I showed him that I was sending to Nancy separately in the mail, it was a stupid ass card, but it said something like, Happy Easter, and here's I can't quite remember, and here's an Easter bunny for you, and you open it up, and there's a big cartoon rabbit with a heart on, ha ha ha. Okay. So I send this to Nancy Denise Joyner, that's who it's addressed to, and then I send the other card to the kids. This Randy, the deputy, sees this, watches me put it into the envelope, and marks it in the jailhouse logbook of mail going out, and he personally witnessed this. Thank goodness he witnessed this. So all of a sudden one day I find out that there's now I'll get there in a second. The prosecution on my case is losing because I've caught the cops lying again. My case is going south. They're watching my case go south. They're realizing they're getting ready to lose the case. And there's a female ATF agent by the name of Jane Hafner. Now before I tell you this story, I want to tell you something that I find fucking bizarre and interesting at the same time. Remember, I got out of jail. Barry McHugh, the prosecutor, is prosecuting me 3 times for these firearms that I allowed to come in the house. By God, he believes I should go rot my ass in prison because I was tricked into bringing guns in the house. That's what he believes. I don't understand that. But anyway, Barry McHugh, I told you, did not come off to me to be a bad guy. He seemed to be a genuinely decent guy, although I would say he was not very hip to what's really going on behind the scenes. He was not. a little green or something, but I think he was ignorant. So I have nothing bad to say about Barry McHugh. Jane Hafner, I will say, I'll tell you what she did. It's odd that I don't hate her. I don't. But let me tell you where I wanted to go. 2 times I met these people out on the street very quickly after I got out of jail. 2 times. I ran into them. And we actually sat down and talked. So understand this. You know, if I'm not sitting in the middle of a literal trial, I'm wearing fucking chains. I'm wearing fucking chains. These assholes believe that I should be wearing chains on my hands and feet all fucking day. What, are you afraid of me? You're afraid of me? You have chains on my hands and feet, and this is how you think I should be treated as a human being? I think you're fucking maggots. But they do it in every courtroom in the land. That's what they do. I think they're maggots. So I run into these people on the street. So one day I literally run into Jane Hafner and Barry McHugh together behind a nice building. I think it was behind the same building where the FBI is. But you know, it's kind of nice over there. Nice part of town. And I ran into him, and we sit down, and we're sitting 2 feet away from each other, and we're just talking like normal folks. Like, I'm not in chains. We're talking. They're not acting like they're afraid of me. They're not even acting like they're uncomfortable. And I wasn't uncomfortable. I was able to talk to them on a normal basis. Hey, how are you? That's weird, huh? That's weird. That's weird. And then one day I was sitting downtown outside a cafe having coffee, and Jane Hafner comes walking down the sidewalk, and she and I sat together at a table and had a coffee and talked. Wow. We talked like normal people. And yet they were trying to fucking crucify me. So let me tell you what Jane Hafner did. So one day I find out and see the paperwork that Jane Hafner is taking Christy Joyner, which is the youngest daughter of Nancy Denise Joyner. Her name is Christy. I don't know if I remember her middle name. I don't think I do. But Jane Hafner has interviewed both of these children. What were their names? Christy and, good Lord, have I forgotten the name of the other girl? Well, right at this moment, I have forgotten her name. But anyway, goddamn, that's terrible. The older one was about 15 and Christy was 14. Jane Hafner had interviewed both of these children more than once. She knew damn well their names. She knew who they were. And I have physical record to this day. I have it up in my closet in a box. Jane Hafner of ATF is seen on a complaint report to a Boise police detective named Bob Mack. And in this report, present in the room, it states, according to Bob Mack, who filled out this report, he's the guy that filled out this report. He says he's present. It says Jane Hafner of ATF is present, and then it says Nancy Denise Joyner, Occupation Junior High School, is present. Wait a minute. Christy Joyner was taken to Bob Mack, and Jane Hafner is sitting in the room and allows Christy Joyner to tell Bob Mack she's Nancy Denise Joyner, which she put the little girl up to. I can't believe otherwise. And why is she doing that? Because Jane Hafner is alleging that I took an inappropriate Easter card and sent it to the children. The mother took the card with the cartoon rabbit on it with the big heart on and put it in an envelope that was sent to the kids and gave it to Jane Hafner, who took it to Bob Mack and got Christy Joyner, who's 14 years old, Occupation Junior High School, to announce herself to Bob Mack's falsely that her name was Nancy Denise Joyner, Occupation Junior High School, 14 years of age. The mother's name. The mother's name. Saying that I sent this card to Nancy, because I would have wrote on the card, Nancy Denise Joyner or whatever. But anyway, that's what she did. Now, it didn't go anywhere. Bob Mack said there was nothing. I called Bob Mack when I got out of jail and talked to him about this, and he didn't do anything about it, but he was kind of pissed, and I know he believed me when I told him that you were lied to by an ATF agent who brought a little girl who misidentified herself to you, saying she was Nancy Denise Joyner, the name on the card, when that was who the mother is, saying I sent this card to the kids. They were so fucked up wanting to get me on something that this Jane Hafner did that to me. Wow. God damn, man. That's fucking sick. God damn, that's fucking sick. Okay. All right. I'm remembering. It's been a while. I'm going to tell you some things about U.S. Marshals, but before I do, for those of you that want to bow out of my stuff and just turn the tape off, I don't really have a whole lot much more with Randy, but let me look at my notes I made. I'm sorry with my throat. I apologize, guys. Apologize for making these noises. Yeah, okay. Well, all right. Remember when I told you, there's two things I want to tell you about Randy. Remember when I told you that Randy went to spy on the Aryan Nation, white supremacist guys up in North Idaho? Well, I said that wrong. He didn't go to spy on anybody. I apologize. That was not correct. He went to look at, and they asked him to spy on the Aryan Nation, and he said, "Go fuck yourself. I'm not going to do it." And he moved up to Ruby Ridge. And so he wouldn't have any part of that. So in jail one day, I asked him, well, because the media was crucifying him, calling him a white supremacist and a skinhead and all this nonsense. And I said, so what's your belief system? And here's what he told me. And it's kind of the same thing we all do today. He says, I'm not a white supremacist. He says, I'm a white separatist. And I said, well, what's that? And he said, well, if you're white and you live in a neighborhood and there's blacks over here and there's Hispanic over here, if you can't get along with these other cultures, you guys shouldn't live together, just separate and go live separately. Don't we do that already? Any white guys up here listening to me live in a black neighborhood? You live in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood? No, we tend to. There's no racial shit behind it. We all tend to live, let's not call it racial, we all tend to live within our cultures because it's more comfortable. I live with people that act like me and talk like me, and everybody else seems to do the same. So we all seem to naturally just kind of separate. But Randy's ideology was, if you can't get along with other people, get the hell away from each other. When he told me that, I said, makes sense to me. So there you go. That was what Randy told me. Let me tell you a final thing about Randy's case. Do you remember Jerry Spence? I think Jerry Spence died not long ago. That's sad. That's sad. Jerry Spence was an awesome fucking storyteller. I'm going to tell you two things more about Randy. It has to do with Randy's Boise lawyer. Remember now, Jerry Spence was from Wyoming, and he has to, if he wants to be the big shot and try the case in Boise, Idaho federal building at the federal courthouse, he has to go through the licenses of attorneys who are here. And so Kevin had an attorney named, what the hell was his last name was Nevin. What the hell was his first name? I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Nevin. He's a well-known, popular attorney. I think he's retired now. And Randy had Chuck Peterson. Oh my God, Chuck Peterson! Jesus Christ. Chuck Peterson was. I don't want to talk ill of people. I'll try and say it nice. Chuck Peterson, after the Ruby Ridge trial, was exceedingly full of himself, and he didn't do shit in that trial. He didn't do shit, and I'll tell you something he did to me personally. Chuck Peterson was his name, but Jerry Spence was the fellow that did all the talking, And the story goes on the trial is that the defense, that being Jerry Spence, never put on a defense because they didn't have to. Remember when I told you that as the prosecution went on, every time FBI, ATF, and U.S. Marshals got on the stand and started to testify, they got caught in front of a jury lying. And that's a fact. All right, so let me tell you why I'm telling you this again. And so Spence did not have to put on a defense. The FBI, ATF, and U.S. Marshals all hung themselves because they're lying pieces of shit. That's perjury. Did anything happen to them for them perjuring themselves? It didn't, did it? Where the fuck do we live? You perjure yourself, you're going to fucking jail. Not them. So Jerry Spence did not put on a defense. Okay. There was a prosecutor named Monty Stiles. Monty Stiles is a Mormon boy. I like to make fun of Mormon boys, and I mean that in the nicest way. I have a very dear friend who's Mormon, and I kid him all the time. I'll just give you his first name. His name's Dale, and I say, Dale, say fuck, Dale. No, I can't do that. Come on, Dale, say fuck. I'm like I'm like the little devil on the one shoulder. So, come on, Dale, come on, say, he. But where I'm going with that is they grew up, a lot of these guys, like Boy Scouts, very square, very decent. And that's what I mean by that. And I call my buddy Dale a choir boy. In fact, I do it right in front of his wife. I hope they forgive me. I mean it in my heart how much I admire him for who he is. That he's very decent and honest and just a decent human being. He just is. They go out of their way to be that way. Look at me. I am a raging assaholic. I admit it. I am the angriest son of a bitch you've ever seen in your life. I'm angry and full of hate, and I don't apologize for it. I hate all these people we're talking about. I told you I didn't hate Jane Hafner, and I don't. I couldn't tell you why. It seems like I should hate her for what she did, but I don't hate her. I don't even hate the U.S. Marshals, and I'm getting ready to tell you some stuff here that'll blow your mind. But so here's this prosecutor. He's a Mormon boy, Monty Stiles, and I told you this story for a reason, because Monty Stiles is trying the case, and my take is every time Monty Stiles, who is a Boy Scout, think of it for a minute. You've worked in this line of work for years, right? You're in the courthouse. You work with FBI and ATF and DEA and police and all this stuff and and then you come to find out in one case that all these people are lying criminal motherfuckers, and it blows your fucking mind. And it blew his mind, literally. It blew it right the hell out. This is not funny what I'm about to say. I am not making fun of this man. He had a mental breakdown. That's not funny. It's not funny at all. And he had a mental breakdown in the middle of this trial because the guys that he looked up to be the good guys, he realized turned out to be total shitbags. And it melted his fucking mind. And his case was going to shit right in front of him. Just right in front of him, in front of a jury, in front of the public, in front of the whole world. Excuse me, God, I hate this more than you do. And he had a mental breakdown, and I won't say it again, but it's not funny. And I don't know where the trial picked up, if somebody took his place or at what point his breakdown was, but he had a breakdown. And that's how seriously fucked up Randy and Kevin's court case was, just like I described what they did to me was seriously fucked up. Very sick people. So that's what I wanted you to know. that the trial was so horrendous that the prosecutor of the case had a mental meltdown. Let's not make fun of the man. He came from a background where he believed in righteousness and good and doing the right thing, and he watched it all go to shit in the middle of that trial. All these fuckers lying. Anything else I can tell you about Randy? Let me look. Let me just look at my notes, and I'm going to get back into my stuff. Never forget, please, that a man from the ATF named Art Roderick admits in court that he shot Sammy's dog. He started a firefight. By the way, from Randy told me this, I believe, on the phone. Randy said some language to the effect that it seemed like it was learned in court. The reason Kevin was not found guilty of any, like, murder, I assume he was charged with murder. I don't recall. I assume that's what it was, because he was there with the bolt action 30-06 pumping rounds into the bushes, and he was found not guilty of any crimes. And Randy, I believe, is the one that told me there was discussion in court where it looked like Art Roderick stitched his buddy up the back with a subgun, hitting his flak jacket, but that somehow it killed him, and Art Roderick killed the U.S. Marshal. I think that's accurate. I hope I didn't misstate anything, but I seem to have that in the back of my head. But Art Roderick is the one that, after Sammy was killed, and ran down the hill and lied. Think about what I'm saying. How does this man live with himself? How come he hasn't eaten a gun in all these years? How does he live with himself? He ran down the hill and he fucking lied like a little bitch. And he lied and he said, we were ambushed, we never fired a shot, and Deegan is dead. And the FBI came up the hill the next day, they looked at the shooting scene, and they determined immediately that Art Roderick was lying out his ass. But you know what they did? They covered up for him. And they got caught covering up. They got caught trying to cover physically the shooting scene, the lies that Art Roderick spewed out. I'm sorry, I'm drifting off into La La Land thinking about this shit, how horrendous it is. Okay, I'm going to go back to my notes. I just wanted to say these things. This is like catch-up stuff that I'm doing. Oh, God. Okay. I did that. While it's on my mind, let me say this. I had written a motion to the court to vacate my sentence and suppress all the evidence and overturn my conviction, which the judge did. So I write this, and I had a court-appointed attorney. His name was Dan Hockley. Man, was he a piece of shit. Dan Hockley tried to sell me down the river, as they say in the movies, and he did it in the following way. As we would sit together over the many, many months, he would tell me that it went. Now he was in the legislative. He was in the legislation in Idaho. He was a rep, I guess, for his district, wherever that was. I guess it was around Boise. And but he used to talk about how he was a U.S. attorney, and I guess it was locally. And he would brag about how he, did operations with various agencies around the area, like in drug stuff, and talking about working with BPD and the sheriff's office, and all these coordinated things with other groups. And what happened was when I started coming up with the names of cops that were dirty, that were setting me up with a fake stalker so I would be tricked into bringing guns in the house. They're not coming to help me. BPD refuses to take my report, as I told you guys, that there's somebody out there threatening women and kids. They refuse to take the report. They tell me it's not happening. Ada County Sheriff's Office does the same thing. I'm being worked. I haven't learned that at that point. All to manipulate me to bring guns in the house so they can arrest me. Same bullshit they did to Randy. And ATF is in on it. ATF is kind of the head figure behind all of this stuff. Because they know they're going to turn this over to the feds and bury my ass. That's where this is going. So I had written a motion in brief, and I turned it over to my attorney. He's supposed to file it. And I have been convicted. I'm waiting around in jail to be picked up by U.S. Marshals and sent for 7 years to prison. In fact, one day they picked me up to do just that. They picked me up. Get all your shit. You're going to prison. On the day. So a couple guys picked me up in Canyon County. Randy's gone home. He's been gone for a couple months. And they're taking me away to La La Land. And as we're driving down 84 towards Boise from Canyon County, this marshal that I never met before, I'd never seen either of these two guys in the car, said, "Hey, we got to stop by the courthouse." So I'm going to tell you what happened here, and then I'm going to tell you how it happened. He says, "We got to stop by the courthouse." I go, "What are we stopping by the courthouse for?" He says, "I have no idea." He says, "I don't know. The judge wants to see you." I'm like, "Okay, well, what do I fucking care? You're sending me to prison. They're taking me off to the airport to put me on a jet to haul me away somewhere." So we stop. We stop in the court. And I'm sitting in the court. There's nobody in there, just me. And I don't know if it's the same U.S. Marshal or another one, but I didn't know him. And he comes up to me and he says, "The judge will be out in a minute." He says, "I don't know what that judge is doing back there." He says, "I've been doing this job a long time, and I've never seen anything like this." He says, just stand by. The judge will be out in a minute." And the judge comes out, and he tells me he read my motion and my argument in support. My conviction is overturned, my sentence is vacated, and all evidence in the case is suppressed. What? I'm on my way to fucking prison. This guy just gave me a stay of execution. Now here's how that happened. Sometime prior, I'm sitting in the jail, and they have these big day room kind of things. God, jails suck, man. Big day room kind of things in the middle. Nothing to do in these places. It's like living in a basement. It's horrible. And there's a deputy up in the control area. You can see her through you can see through the window, and there's other pods you can see through the windows around, and this person's controlling like 4 areas, sitting in the middle. They open and close doors and do dumb shit, but that's what they do. And this particular deputy and some detectives in the sheriff's department are buddying up to me. Very much so. A lot of them are. One of the deputies actually went out and joined ISP. And when I got released from jail, she was waiting for me outside. Anyway, but I'm saying this because they just like Randy's case, they knew there was dirty shit going on, and they have to hold me. They don't have a choice but to hold me in jail. They don't get to say. So they're going to hold me in the jail. I met lots of guys in that jail. I met a lieutenant. We sat around in a room one day just hanging out and shooting the shit because he was a nice guy. I'm telling my dog something. He was a nice guy. He thought I was okay, and we talked. And anyway, so here's where I'm going with the story. but I seem to have a good rapport with these people, and I really just think they were interested in my case. You know, maybe they're trying to determine he's either crazy as a loon, talking about this stalker crap, or this shit could be real, and oh my God, this is like, these are the days of our lives. So one day I say to this deputy up in this thing, I need a free telephone. I got to call my lawyer. My lawyer's screwing me, and I tell this deputy what's going on. And long story short, the deputy hands a phone out through the slot and dials the two numbers, or the one number that I have. I call my attorney, who's in the State House doing whatever it was that he does, and I happen to get him on the phone. Now, they have offices down there. And I got him on the phone. Excuse me again, I'm so sorry. My voice will get gravelly. And I said to this attorney, Dan Hockley, when I got him on the phone, I said, Dan, did you get my motion and brief? Yeah, he got my motion and brief. I said, Dan, did you file my motion and brief at the court? No, didn't file it. I said, Dan, here's what's going on. I said, in my hand, I have the phone number to the judge's clerk in one hand, and in the other hand, I have the telephone number for the Bar Association. I said, you have 30 fucking minutes to pick your fucking ass up in that State House and walk my shit over to the federal building and have it filed. I said, I'm not kidding, Dan. You got 30 fucking minutes, and then I'm going to call this fucking judge and tell him what you've been doing. I hung up the phone. 30 minutes later, I call back. This deputy hands me the phone again. Now, understand this. This deputy saved my ass. If I hadn't have got it a free phone, I would have been railroaded. All right. Just listen. That's huge. This deputy could have been fired for what they did, give me a phone like that. So 30 minutes later, I called Dan Hockley back on the phone. No, I take it back. I didn't call Hockley. I called the clerk's office. I called the clerk's office, and I asked the clerk, were my papers filed? She says, yes, they were just filed. And I hung up the phone. Well, that's what happened. Think about what I'm telling you. My own lawyer is hiding shit and doesn't want me to file what I'm filing because I'm telling on cops that he used to work with, and he doesn't want them to go down. That's what's fucking happening. Do you hear how sick that is? Dog, why are you in this thing? Charlie, hey, come here. Go over there. Get in your bed. Get in your bed. That's really, really sick. And what was happening to me, the same kind of sick shit was happening to Randy. Let me put my glasses back on. I just want to tell you these things because this is sick stuff. What else here? Oh, let me tell you about this, please, and maybe this will be the last thing. Remember when I told you that a detective in Canyon County Sheriff's Office was approached by U.S. Marshals Dave Hunt, Warren Mays, and Mike Johnson, who were transporting Randy Weaver and myself back and forth to court. But I learned of this through the detective, and we became very dear friends. Because of this, well, we're like super friends, and I'm thankful to have him as a friend, and apparently he enjoys me because we talk on the phone all the time, like, God, at least weekly. So he was the guy that was told the story. I'm an ex-cop, prison guard that murdered someone, a gun runner, hitman, martial artist who'd rather kill you than look at you, was their language. And Kent says in an affidavit, which again is over in that file folder over there, that he looked into me and determined there's no paper in the whole wide world that says I was ever any of those things. And now he wants to know why law enforcement is coming to his agency, the sheriff's office, and lying about David Hoffman. And that's how we became friends. And then he went on to say in his affidavit, and he said, because of this, when David Hoffman speaks up, I've always found that every time he speaks, he's telling the truth. And so I'm always more interested to hear what David Hoffman has to say. Wow. Wow. That's a big freaking thing. That's a huge thing. It's huge. All right, so I get out of jail. It's 94. In 96, I'm downtown in Boise. I'm at it's a bar, I guess. It's at 8th and Main. It's on the corner. It's upstairs on the second floor. And you look out, there was an outdoor, I don't know what you want to call it, an outdoor balcony kind of patio thing that went around two sides. And one side overlooked Main Street, and the other side looked over 8th Street. It was kind of nice. I liked it. Again, you remember I said I liked being outdoors because idiots smoked cigarettes. I can't stand that shit. And I'm sitting at a table. I always went out alone. I never had a date. Never. I'm sitting at a table. I'm drinking an ale by myself. I'm sitting outside. And I see a face come in the door or come out onto the outside part. He's an Ada County deputy. I don't know his name, but I see his face a lot, and I see his face a lot in outdoor, not I don't mean outside, in settings, social places that people go, like bars or clubs or whatever. And I used to see his face, and I knew he was a deputy, and he would see my face, and we never spoke. I would nod at him, hello, how are you? He would nod back. That's all it was. And I see him come in the place, and he's walking towards me. He's got a real good-looking girl on his arm. Now, he's a big, tall, I'm 6 foot. He's taller than I am. He's probably 6'3". I recall he was a real good-looking guy. Had a real good-looking girl on his arm. Heard they got married. She was a prosecutor. He's a deputy. And he's smiling at me from long distance. Now, as he's walking towards me, I make a note in my mind as I look over to the left, and I see the fired U.S. Marshal, Mike Johnson, standing in the French doors, looking out. Okay, I see him. So what? I go back to this guy. I haven't put anything together. It does go together. Yeah, it went together all right. I didn't put anything together. So this guy's walking towards me, smiling. I believe this is real. And he walks up to me, and he puts his hand out to shake my hand. And I get up out of my seat, to shake his hand. And I do, and I'm holding onto his hand, shake his hand. And he holds my hand, and he leans down into my ear, and he whispers, I'm going to take you down. And I hold on to his hand, and I said, what the fuck did you just say? And he says it again, and he laughs. And I said, Guy, I don't know what your fucking problem is. I said, but I'm about to give you flying lessons off the side of that balcony, motherfucker. And he laughs. Now, he's real drunk, and every time I ever saw him in public, he was apparently a heavy drinker. I drank one ale, and that was my limit. He's real drunk. He's wearing his fanny pack thing. That was the 90s, so people wore those things. And I know his gun and badge is in there. Now, that's illegal, even for him, but I don't frankly fucking care. I don't care that he has his weapon with him. It doesn't bother me. And he walks off. And he walks off, and he sits over on the other side of the place, and he's sitting over there with friends, and I'm sitting at my table with my back to him, and I am so fucking mad. I am smoking. I'm surprised I'm not on fire. I am pissed. I've never been that pissed in my whole life. I'm pissed. And after 10 minutes of stewing in my juices, I turn around and I walk over to his table and I say, hey man, what was that about? What's your fucking problem? And I don't remember what he says. I'm sure there was some rhetoric going back and forth. And I'm needling him. And I'm saying, hey, look, why don't you and I just go outside and we'll talk about this? Now, I'm trying to get this guy to go outside because I am going to fuck this guy up. I'm gonna fucking hurt this guy. Or he's going to hurt me, but we're definitely fighting. And I say it 3 or 4 times to him, let's go outside and talk about this. I don't want to talk about this in here. And he says, I'm not going outside with you. And I said, why not? And here was his answer. He says, because U.S. Marshals told me all about you. And my head just sunk. My head sunk onto my chest. And I thought, I think I said it aloud. I think I just said, oh no, not again. And I turn around, I swear to God, I turn around and Mike Johnson is standing 10 feet behind me. And I realize that probably just in that moment, that's what that Mike Johnson just lied to this guy like he lied to my detective friend 2 years prior in Canyon County and told him this shit. I was fucking insane. I should have been chained to a wall. I'm not joking. I'll never forget as long as I live. It's as mad as I've ever been in my life. Well, let me tell you how mad I was. The following day, call me a cuckoo. It's okay, I'll accept it, but I don't apologize for a fucking thing. The following day, I went to the federal building, and I went to the floor, I don't remember what floor it is, where the U.S. Marshals office is. And I walked into the U.S. Marshals office. When I walked in, I remember it was an open room. There was a lot of desks out in the open area, and they were all women. And then around 2 corners that I could see were offices where the walls went up, waist high, and then the rest was glass. So around 2 sides, in front of me and to my right, were offices. And with men in there, males, that I took to be U.S. Marshals. I walked in that fucking door and walked out into the middle of that room, and I started screaming at the top of my lungs every 4-letter word that I know. And I'm telling these marshals, get your fucking ass out here in the middle of this fucking room right now, you motherfuckers. And I'm talking like that. I'm talking exactly like that. Now, why would I do that? There was about 8 of them in there. Am I such a tough guy I can take 8 guys? No, don't be silly. So why did I do that? Because I knew it was going to go one of 2 ways. I knew I didn't think for a minute they were, I was inviting them to come out and fight me. I was telling them, let's fight right now. I want to fight all of you, is what I'm yelling like a fucking maniac. I mean, I had to look like a lunatic. I really did that. I really, really did. So one of 2 things is going to happen. They're either going to come over and muscle me and arrest me, and I'm going, go ahead and arrest me, motherfucker, or we're going to fight. Or, as it turns out, they came, by the way, they came out of their offices, they stood at their door, all of them, their individual doors, and they would not take a step towards me. In fact, they did not say a single word. Not a word. Nothing. And the women in the middle, they were aghast. They just thought, I was a raving lunatic, which I probably was. They didn't say a word, they didn't advance on me, they didn't move, but here's why I did it. Because if you arrest me, you motherfucker, I'm going to be standing in front of a fucking United States judge, and I'm going to tell them everything you motherfuckers did. And they did not want that. That's why they didn't move. They knew why I was mad. They knew what they did. So I left there pissed. I'm still smoking. And I drive directly over to the sheriff's office. And I go into the sheriff's office, and I don't remember quite how insistent I was. I think I was fairly insistent, but trying to be polite, because the guy I wanted to see was Captain Roy Holloway, who happens to be, in that time, a really nice guy. So I don't need to be coming in cussing and carrying on and screaming. He wouldn't have appreciated that much. So I said, look, I'm really adamant about seeing Captain Holloway, and the fucking man came to the door. They went and got him. He came to the door and walked me in. So we went into his office and sat down, and I told him the story of what happened. And I said, I'm telling you right now, there's not a judge in the world who's going to agree with me. I said, but if your man, I said, I don't care if I blow a stop sign and your man sees it, he better get somebody else to do this T-stop. Because if he comes near me, I'm going to fuck him up. We are going to fight. I'm going to fight this guy. I said, this is personal. There's not a judge in the world that'll agree with the thing I'm saying, but I'm going to fuck this guy up. And that's what I told him. And he says, well, do you know his name? I said, I do not. So he said, let's go look at some pictures out in the hallway. So we did. And I picked him out of a group photo, and it had his name on there. So now he knew his name was Jeb, J-E-B, Perney. And I have no idea why this guy hated me so much. Probably because U.S. Marshals, he told him all about me. All right. Well, U.S. Marshals were lying, and do you see what happened? This man was drunk. He's carrying a fucking gun, and he says he's going to take me down. And he actually believes, which why would you not? If law enforcement from over here comes to law enforcement over here and says XYZ, why the hell would you not fucking believe it? And even if you're passing the scuttlebutt along in a social setting, so what? Shouldn't that information be as solid in a social setting as it is in a professional one? Should be the same, shouldn't it? So why would he not accept those words as valid? And thereby, U.S. Marshals with lies enticed somebody. So if I'm driving the road and down the road and I get pulled over in a stop and my hands flinch wrong, am I going to end up dead on the side of the road? I don't know. In 2010-ish, I'm in Boise again, and I drive a Range Rover. I was even driving one back then. I've had this Range Rover a long time. And I'm walking back to my Range Rover. It's within sight. Let me grab something. Hold on a second. Let me get something. Remember when I said my buddy detective affidavit? It's in here. I carry this in my car everywhere I go, and I've been doing this for close to 15, 20 years. This right here. All right. And that was in my Range Rover. So I'm walking. I'm within sight of my vehicle, and I hear David Hoffman from behind me. And I turn around and I look, and there's two Ada County uniforms standing behind me, two deputies. And they said, "Are you David Hoffman?" And I said, "Yeah, I am." And they said, "Can we talk to you?" I said, "Well, of course you can." So they walked up and we're talking, and here's exactly what they said to me. Without any introduction, nothing, they said, "We are told at more," this is 2010. 2010, how many years is that after all this other shit? Long time. These guys weren't even fucking born yet. So in 2010, these guys says, "We are told at morning briefings that you are," and then they reiterated all that shit. I'm an ex-cop, ex-prison guard, and all that stuff. And that, you know, that you're a really bad dude, and the process of them discussing that with me ended when I laughed. I laughed. You would have thought I would have got mad, but I didn't. I laughed and I shook my head. And I said, "Can I show you something?" And they said, "Yeah." I said, I got a file folder in my car. I want you to look at it. So I got it. It's that file folder. I said, "I want you to read an affidavit or two affidavits from a detective from Canyon County Sheriff's Office." They said, "Okay." So I handed them the stack of two affidavits. And by the way, these statements, they're notarized. They're dated and notarized, both of them. So I hand it to the one guy, and he's reading the page. He passes it to his buddy, and they're reading it. Took them several minutes. And they get done with it, and the last guy's holding the last page, and the first guy who spoke to me turns to me and says, "What the fuck?" He said, "This isn't what we were told." I said, "Yeah, I know." I said, "You guys are running around with fucking guns and badges, and you're being told this bullshit, which is gonna do what? Get me killed?" There's a reason this is going on, guy. And I brought something up to them. I said, do you remember the Mark Stahl situation? They said, "Of course." I said, "Well, I was the investigator on that case, and I alleged that BPD did some really fucked up shit. They shot Mark Stahl, and I can prove it right now." And so, "Oh, you're that, David? Okay, yeah." Well, here's what the guy said to me. He says, "I'm going to go back to the sheriff's office, and I'm going to nose around and see what I can see." He said, "Can I come find you sometime in the future and talk to you?" I said, "Guy, I know you know how to look me up and find me. You can come by my place anytime you want. It's not a problem." And then I never heard from him again. And which coincides with another experience, which I'll leave out, a conversation I had with an FBI guy. I'll leave it out. All right. That's most of the stuff I have. We're already an hour into this thing. I wanted you to hear how sick these fuckers all are. They make shit up. They try and hurt you. They're disgusting, vile human beings. And in my walk of life, and probably, I don't know any people like this. These people are like dirty gangsters. They're dirty. In their minds, they're dirty. What the fuck? I can't comprehend people even thinking like that and acting like that. It's not in my DNA to do that. So how is it in theirs that they're so fucking twisted and sick? All right. Ranting and raving. I still plan on finding a way to take this up the chain of command. The murders that have been committed, these people have to be held accountable. I don't know how we ever fixed Randy Weaver's stuff. He's gone. He died. His girls were Sarah, Rachel, and Elishaba. I saw some photos of them. I said this before. They're gorgeous girls. They're beautiful girls. They're grown women. And their family was taken from them ruthlessly by these fucking murdering cunts. I'm a foul-mouthed whatever. Oh, I just don't fucking care. I love cuss words. Oh my God, I love cuss words. They're so expressive. I like all the hard consonants. They make me feel better. Okay. Keep your eyes open. One day this is all going to come out. You watch. I'm a doer.